Good morning, friends. Welcome once again in this lockdown period. We have a great personality with us today, CA Mahindra Prakash, as our today's speaker. Would like to request Bafna ji to introduce our today's speaker.
Thank you, Raj, for giving me the opportunity to welcome and introduce a great speaker, Manindra Prakash. He is a director in the oil and gas practice of productivity in India and Middle East. He is a chartered accountant, company secretary, and information system certified auditor. He is a risk advisory consultant in oil, gas, metal, mining, and pharma sector, etc. He is having vast experience of more than 15 years in internal audit, corporate governance, financial reporting, fraud investigations, data analytics, process of re-engineering, etc., etc. He has deep experience in the leading and execution fraud risk management project and conducting awareness workshop on anti-bribery corruptions. Prior to this productivity, he worked at Big Four organizations like Ernst & Young, Deloitte, and PwC. Welcome a great experienced speaker on today's session, Internal Control Framework Introductory Session. Welcome, Prakash ji. Welcome to all.
Welcome once again, sir. And without wasting much time, I would like to request sir to start the session.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bafna, for nice introduction. Thank you, Virag, and the entire team of CA of Mumbai for giving me this opportunity to present on the COSO internal control framework. So first of all, I hope I am audible and also you can see me. So there are no concerns there. So guys, before I start, couple of things I would like to mention is this particular COSO presentation. I have prepared it considering the mixed audience. Basically, we have a fresher also, and we will have the experienced resources as well, team members attending it. So accordingly, I have designed the presentation. Second thing is that COSO is a very vast topic. It includes your 5 components, 17 principles, and more than 80 point of focus. So it is very difficult to cover the entire COSO in 1.5 hour time. But what is the idea that if you can understand the concept of the COSO, why it is, what it is, why it is required, and how to apply it, that serves the purpose of this particular training. So accordingly, I have designed it. And the third thing is, this is very dry topic. It can be very theoretical, but I have tried to keep it as lucid and with the help of some examples so that you can understand it better. So let's begin. COSO internal control framework and introductory training. What all we are going to cover? Risk and internal control basics, its components and principles, COSO, internal control assessment, how it is done, internal control documentation, internal control, what is the Indian legal perspective on that, benefits and the limitations of the internal control, what is the process owner role in internal controls. So all of these we are going to cover in today's session. First thing, risk and internal control basics. So what does it say? Risk is what can go wrong. So in general, risk is defined as the possibility that an event will occur which will impact organization's achievement of objectives. And this word, which is in bold, achievement of objectives, please remember this we are going to use throughout the session. Achievement of objectives, that is the focus. And the business risk, a threat that an event or action will adversely affect an organization's ability to maximize stakeholder value and to achieve its business objective. So that is the risk, what can go wrong. So for example, risk of plant breakdown if the timely maintenance is not done. Then what is control? Control is always against risk. You saw some risk, so to mitigate, to reduce, you introduce some kind of control. So the control is a process. effected by an entity's board of directors, management, and other personnel, designed to provide reasonable assurance. Remember the word reasonable assurance, not the absolute assurance, reasonable assurance on effectiveness and efficiency of operations, reliability of financial reporting, compliance with applicable laws and regulations. So if I take the previous example, the risk of the plant breakdown, if there is no timely maintenance, then what is the control? It would be detailed preventive maintenance schedule is prepared and preventive maintenance is undertaken based on that schedule. Right? So still it sounds to you like very theoretical. So now my request to all of you, I believe a lot of chartered accountants and chartered accountant students are attending this. So tomorrow you may be doing the assignment of internal audit or internal control review, IFC review for any of the organization, okay, your clients, or you may work in industry and you will be responsible for the internal control. So my request to you would be, for next few minutes, please forget this environment, your working environment, that you are at a client place or you are working for your organization, and there is something called, risk and control within the organization. You have to manage all of those things. Please come out of that for next few minutes and try to understand this concept. Internal control is part of our day-to-day life. Let's try to understand internal control in general. Then you will understand internal control within your organization much better. So what I'm saying, internal control is part of our day-to-day life. Unauthorized access. So if there is a risk of unauthorized access, you are entering your office, or let's say if any kind of knowledge KPOs or BPOs, you must have seen that there is a password control or the biometric access is there. So that is also a control to mitigate the risk of unauthorized access. Then you must have seen in your homes, this is always there, short circuit leading to fire. This is the risk. So what is the control? Circuit breaker. We all drive our cars. What is the risk? High speed. What we do? We put brakes. CCTV cameras, everywhere it is installed, be it inside our offices, outside, or anywhere, we can see to identify the unauthorized activities, and this is the control. Very, very important, friends. Review. What is the risk? Risk is the incorrect choices. You want to go to restaurant, you want to see a movie, you want to buy a product. We are dependent on some kind of reviews and review is done by whom? By we people only. So that's the online review mechanism. This is the control to mitigate the risk of incorrect choices. Very important. Poor health. So what you do with the smartwatches, you monitor your daily steps and you try to meet the target and try to be healthy as possible. These are the day-to-day example. Let me extend this. Okay. Now I told you one word to remember throughout the presentation. That is your objectives. Now, if I tell you that your objective is to reduce your weight and you want to become fit, this is your objective, that in next 3 months target, in 3 months time, this is your target, that you want to become fit and you want to reduce your weight. So what will you do to achieve these objectives? Generally in a classroom session, it's always, I try to make this very, very interactive and I get the responses from people. Here it is a little challenging. So, I am only telling that what's the answer. The two things you are going to do here. Number one is exercise. Okay, as simple as that to meet the objective. And number two is the diet. So against the objective of to reduce weight and to become fit, number one control is exercise and number two control is the diet control. So in exercise, what you will do, you will have the schedule, on a daily basis, this particular day, aerobics, or let's say running, or whatever it is, and you will follow the schedule. And for the diet, you will have this, you don't have this, this is this much, only this much will be your once in a week will be your cheat day. That kind of control you will have for your exercise and for your diet. But if I do one thing, I introduce two people in the entire chain. For exercise, I introduce a gym trainer. And for food, for your diet monitoring, this responsibility is given to any of your family member, your mom, your father, anyone. Okay. So do you think that in the second scenario, when you have segregated the duty, your chances of achieving the objective would be much higher and you will be more effective? Because in the first case, when there were no gym trainer, there is a possibility you are missing out sessions. Instead of, let's say, 40 minutes a day, you are feeling tired, you are doing only 20 minutes, you are skipping few days. But if there is a gym trainer, he is always seeing you, he is telling you to go and complete the your schedule. So there is a good possibility that you in the second scenario you will be more effective. And similarly, from the diet side as well, if there is a family member monitoring, you cannot have more than one cheat day in a week. You will have only one, and that there will be a rigor to complete the entire schedule of your, to follow the diet schedule. So what I did, I segregated the duties and the control become more effective, and that helps you in achieving the objective of reducing the weight and become fit. Now I'm adding one more layer to it. I'm adding a doctor who is approving your exercise pattern, what you should considering your BMI, what should you follow and what should be your diet. So now this is one more control of a diet approval control. So someone is approving, that is a control, someone is monitoring, and someone is performing. So these are the segregations here. So now if we take consider this entire setup, this will be the more effective, and possibility of achieving your objective is much higher in this kind of setup, rather than only giving the entire control to you, because there is a possibility you may not follow a right schedule, you may not have a right kind of diet plan unless there is a doctor is there is a gym trainer, and there is a family member. So this particular example which I am giving, my dear friends, there is a real life case of our very own, very dear Virat Kohli. I have a video which I cannot play, but I'll later on circulate on the WNT WhatsApp group. So for Virat Kohli, what happened in 2012, he had a very bad IPL season, and that time he was not as fit as he is today. And in that video, he clearly says that the kind of the diet pattern and the exercise schedule which he had followed in last 7 to 8 years, and after following this, after having this much of control, the objective of reducing weight and to become fit and to become agile on the ground, we all can see very much what he is today. So if you want to achieve that kind of objective, these internal controls are must. Be it the case of your playground or your personal life or your organization. The same concept, my dear friends, that applies in our organizations as well. I'll quickly give you one more example. This particular presentation, okay, which I am conducting, COSO internal control, presentation. So what happened? First of all, this deck was created by someone. Who created the deck? I created the deck. This was reviewed by whom? My mentor. So there is a maker checker control. Someone is preparing it and someone is reviewing it. This is one side to make this. What is the objective? Objective is the quality training delivered to the audience. So one of the control is the maker checker on the presentation. The second control can be, which is not there at this moment, but there is a possibility, there should be a quality audience. If the audience is also not attentive, how the quality training will be delivered? The objective is not yet met. So in this webinar, that feature is not there, but there are tools available which assesses, which checks the attentiveness of the audience, whether the audience who was attentive and who was not attentive. So if I introduce both the controls, one control is also there, and if I introduce the second one as well, we will achieve the objective of quality training. So I hope I am making it clear that internal control is everywhere. There is an omnipresence in our daily lives, in our professional lives, in our organization. Okay. So from this, let's move ahead. So as you know, the control is always against the risk. So let's see, risk is further clarified here. Absence of control is not risk. Okay. So if you have no control, for example, physical verification of a stock is a control to detect misappropriation. But if you have not done the physical verification, that doesn't mean that the stocks are not matching with your book. So still control can be, there can be preventive controls. So if there is no control, that doesn't mean that a risk is always there. Risk is relative to objectives. As I mentioned, objective will keep coming throughout the session. So rejection rate of 1% is not a risk if business objective already considers a 2% rejection. So what you want to achieve, the risk is related to that. If already you are, the market, the market, the practice is the 2%, which is a very normal loss, and then 1% you cannot consider it as a risk. Magnitude is highly subjective. So materiality, friends, matters a lot. Stock difference of INR 50,000 may not be a risk at a company which has average level of 50 crores. Okay. And it becomes a risk for auditing of a warehouse which has an average stock level of INR 5 lakhs. 50,000, physical verification stock difference for a company of 50 crore, let's say, value of stock may not be material enough, but it may be material for the warehouse, which is stocks only. Average stock level is only INR 5 lakhs. Risks are relative to industry, very, very important. Now, this particular example, let's say there is a company, IT company of turnover of 20,000 crore. And there is a cement manufacturing company of turnover of 20,000 crore. So where you will employ more people, obviously in case of IT sector, you will have, more than 50,000 and, 1 lakh people to manage that 20,000 crore of turnover. But for a cement manufacturing company, you will have only 5,000 people. So whether this risk of human resource area, human resource process, is it a high risk for a cement manufacturing company or for an IT company? Definitely for a IT company. So when you plan your internal controls, to assess the internal controls, to check the internal controls, the human resource will be considered as a high risk area for the IT company, but not for the cement manufacturing company. So risk is related to industry. Now, how you deal with the risk? The classic 4 ways. Terminate. So let's say you don't want any duplicate invoices to be processed. So you will have in your ERP, in your SAP, the system-based control, so that it doesn't allow same invoice to be processed more than once. So you will, if there is a system-based preventive control, you will terminate it. If you cannot terminate, you will have controls to reduce it to the extent possible. So you will treat risk accordingly. Third one, there is a possibility that risk is low and the impact would also be low. In that case, you won't spend much time and energy in controlling that risk. What you will do, you will accept it, you will live with it. Last one is pass on. If you cannot do anything and still the risk is high, what you can do, you can pass it on to whom? To, let's say, insurance company. So in case of any untoward incident, then insurance company will reimburse all the cost. So we call this formula as either you terminate, either you reduce, or you accept the risk, or you pass it on. And on the right hand side, you generally, when you do the formal risk assessment, you have this kind of graph, you plot it, where on one axis you have the risk, likelihood, and in other one you have the impact. So insignificant risk, minor risk, moderate, or major catastrophic risk, or it is rare, unlikely, moderate, likely, or certain. So accordingly, you will decide your treatment strategy. Are you going to accept it, or you are going to pass it on, or you have to terminate it, and or you can reduce it based on the kind of the controls, the kind of the systems you have. So to simply put, control is what's employed to reduce the likelihood of something going wrong. Fine. So to manage the inherent industry challenge, challenges and the risk, an organization should have a robust integrated internal control environment. and thus the need for implementing a widely accepted control framework. Here COSO comes into pictures. What is COSO? The COSO is internal control framework. So friends, here I am using the term framework. What is a framework? That is always a question I ask in my classroom session, but here I will explain what is the concept of the framework. So framework also we see in our day-to-day life. Framework is a general concept, okay, not only with the internal control. So you can see the picture of this car. So what is the objective? You want to you want to go from one destination to another. You need a vehicle, okay? And for that vehicle, what is the structure, basic structure of a vehicle? There should be an engine, there should be a body, there should be a seat, there should be wheels, there should be gears, there should be horn, light, all of those things, there should be a boot. So this is the structure of this is the framework. Now in this framework, you can have Maruti, you can have Mercedes, you can have Jaguar, you can have Tata cars, you can have any kind of car, but the framework remains same. Try to understand my point. There are n number of companies, okay, and they have to follow, all are different. Their risks are different, their controls are different, but what they have to follow, the different companies have to follow this same framework. So this is the concept of the framework, which here I'm going to explain in detail in the coming slides, but I hope you are clear in the in understanding the term framework here. COSO internal control framework, the components and the principles. So COSO, the Committee of Sponsoring Organization of the Treadway Commission. This is a voluntary private sector organization in USA to improve the quality of financial reporting through business ethics, effective internal controls, and corporate governance. And based on these principles, the COSO framework was developed as a foundation for establishing internal control system in 1985 in USA. And this was a joint initiative by 5 private sector organizations, which are those: your American Accounting Association, CPA, Financial Executives International, the Institute of Internal Auditors of India, and IMA. What is the mission of this COSO? To develop thought leadership, in the fields of enterprise risk management, internal controls, and fraud deterrence. And at the same time, what is the vision? The vision is to become a recognized thought leader. So let's understand the COSO internal control definition in detail. Once we have already seen it, this is a process and to affected by entities, board of directors, and the management. Let's break it up and try to understand with more clarity. So this is geared to achieve to the achievement of the objectives, as I clearly said. But achievement where? In three aspects are there. One is the operational objectives, reporting objectives, your financial and the non-financial reporting. Third is the compliance objective. All three you will understand in detail in the next slide. This is a process consisting of ongoing tasks and activities. So this is a means to an end to achieve the objective. This is internal control. COSO internal control framework is not an end in itself. This is a mean to achieve the end. Affected by the people, not merely about the policy and the procedures, systems and forms, but about the people and the actions they take at every level of an organization to affect internal control. Able to provide reasonable assurance to the senior management and the board of the directors that controls are there, designed perfectly, and it's operating. Adaptable to the entity structure. As I said, this is a framework. So this is flexible enough in application for the entire entity or a particular subsidiary, division, operating unit, or business process level. So first one, objectives, further clarified. So what are the operational objectives? Can be various: effectiveness and efficiency of operations, operational and financial performance, safeguarding of the assets, and compliance with the entity policies. Let's see the examples. So you may have a target of growth by this much of percentage in 2021 in spite of the COVID-19 scenario. My plan was this much. So your objective may change at this stage because this has impacted so much. So now I want to achieve this much. cost reduce COP by X%. Profitability, EPS, you want to achieve the EPS of INR this much. Geography, you want to penetrate the new market. Infrastructure, you want to upgrade your ERP system. You may have an objective of the quality, to have the minimum number of defects in your product. So operational objective can be of any type. Reporting objective, this is this internal and external, financial and non-financial. Okay, reliability, timeliness, and transparency in the reporting, compliance with the standards, your accounting standards, your audit standards, and your entities, policies, and procedures in reporting. What can be the examples? So these are the various financial statement assertions, whether existence or occurrence of the transaction, completeness of the transactions while recording. The rights and obligations are clearly, identified in your P&L and balance sheets. The correct valuation and the allocation of the same. The presentation and disclosure of all the things. And then for the internal reporting, the first 5 bullets was for the external. For the internal reporting to the management and to the board of directors on a quarterly basis and MIS on the monthly basis, that should also be accurate and timely. Compliance with your laws and regulations which the entity is subject to. So what the company should be aware of: applicability of the laws, rules, and the regulations, the country specific laws and regulations. So if there is an Indian MNC operating in the multiple countries, what are the local laws the company should be aware of? The monitoring of the compliance on a regular basis, whether the you're filing all the returns, making the payments and all, and what is the evidence and the documentation of the same. Now let's understand the COSO structure. Objectives you understood. 5 components of the COSO internal control framework. It starts with control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, monitoring activities. So friends, there is a logic behind this components to keep it in this particular sequence. What is the control environment? It's the tone at the top. You will understand all 5 components in detail. I am just briefly touching it upon now. So control environment is the tone at the top. Then what you do, risk assessment. First, for the risk assessment, you will identify the objectives, and against the objectives you will identify all the risks. What are the risks for the organization? Against those risks, what are the controls in the organization? Automated control, preventive control, detective control. And once you have identified this, you have introduced the controls. You will see that everything is happening in sync. So there is a information and communication, proper information and communication within the organization and outside the organization. And the last one is the monitoring controls, which is your internal audit and the other way of monitoring to all the 4 components mentioned above. So whether it is all of these are present and functioning on a continuous basis or not, you do that by way of monitoring activities. Now all these 5 components, to achieve the objective which is mentioned on the top, it should be applied across the organization. See on the right hand side what is there at entity level. So there is a very big company, Reliance Industries, or Bharti, any other big company. So entity at group level you need to apply first. Then your division, your manufacturing, your retail, your telecom, it should be applied for all the divisions. At operating unit level, so within there is, let's say XYZ plant location. So at that operating unit level you need to apply, and within that at function level, at the process level, production process, HR process, accounting and finance process, insurance process, there can be many processes. So this particular framework is applied at entity, division, operating unit and function level to achieve the objectives of operations, reporting and compliance. This is the entire framework. Now here it can be a Reliance Industries, it can be Bharti, it can be Vedanta, it can be Tata's, anything, any organization, this model need to be applied. Hierarchy I explained. So what is COSO, friends? It says that to do the right things in a right way. Last 2 bullet is very, very important. COSO is principle based. So there are components, there are principles. It is not rule based. So as I said, the same framework can be applied at different organization. COSO never says that for this risk you have to have this kind of controls. No. COSO is saying only the principle. You should have segregation of duties, you should have the preventive controls, you should have the control activities. Now what kind of control to mitigate that risk, that is purely the management judgment. Selection of controls is a function of management judgment based on the factors unique to the entity. You need to only ensure this framework is there, but what are the controls need to be applied to mitigate the risk? That's purely management judgment. There COSO says nothing. The framework doesn't prescribe controls to be selected, developed, or deployed. It is just a framework. You want to make a Maruti car, you want to make a car for masses, or you want to make a luxury car. You know, for both you will apply the same framework, but what you want to achieve, what you want to make for that, what kind of controls you want to have, that's purely a management judgment. So now the first component, COSO control environment. One second. We are starting with the first component here, the control environment. Control environment is basically tone at the top. Let me here also give you some practical example for my young audience here who will understand the control environment better than. So control environment is tone at the top. What is tone at the top? So now in this COVID scenario where the businesses have got impacted, you know, very much, there are different kind of examples. You can see organization. In the public domain, you have all the examples. So yesterday there was a news that one organizations have announced, and like that few others also, there is a layoff. There is a payroll cut of this much percentage. Okay. There is another organization where the MD, the managing director, the CEO says, I will not take my salary. I will not take my salary. This is the first information. So tone at the top is basically looking up to the top management. What are they doing? People always look at up to them. So one organization, the managing director is saying, I am not taking my salary. Do you think the tone at the top would be different for both the category of the organization? The another one is directly saying, I am reducing your payroll cost. I am deducting your cost, salary cost first, not mine. So that makes a lot of difference, friends, in the tone of the top. What message you want to, what is the rigor? So another example, there are many companies in the public domain where you have seen, you know, there are cases of favoritism. Favoritism by whom? By the, let's say, promoter group, but the related party transaction. They have given the large, let's say, XYZ company, large contract of the raw material procurement to their one of the relatives, and that becomes in the public domain. Then the people down the line thinks, if my promoter can do it, why can't I do it? There are cases of favoritism in giving employment by the managing director and the CEO of the company. So all the news goes down, right? And the people look up to their to their bosses. They think only one thing, that if they can do it, why can't I do it? And rather than that, if you convey a right message of tone at the top, if you demonstrate the values, the cultural, the code of the conduct, the discipline, the people will think, if they are not doing it, how can I do it? That's the difference. So tone at the top, try to understand the concept of it, and you can see, oh, this particular one component is at the top. Rest of all risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, monitoring falls below that. So if your control environment tone at the top is solid, the other components will function equally. And if the control environment is not strong, you can't comment anything you know, about the functioning and the effectiveness of the other components. So what is there? The foundation upon which the components are built, that is your control environment. Tone at the top, as I mentioned, it touches upon the culture of the company, the history, the management style, the preferences, the values which you write on your code of conduct. That is applicable not only to the employees, that is also applicable to the top management. And this permeates the company from top to bottom. So what message at the sitting at the top you are conveying to the, you know, to your fellow colleagues and the junior employees, that matters a lot. Again, the first component, there are 5. First one is demonstrate commitment to integrity and ethical values. So establish the code of the conduct, evaluate adherence of all the employees, and address deviation. At the same time, top management is supposed to follow the same code of conduct. Then comes the top. In the top management is not only the managing director and the CEO and the CFO of the company. Who apart from that is the board of director. Board of director exercise oversight responsibility, applies relevant expertise, operates independently, completely independent, not influenced by any kind of personal interest or any kind of association with the organization, completely independent. And they oversee the internal control structure of the organization. Third one, establishes structure, authority, and the responsibility. So that is basically the defining the delegation of authority clearly and the roles and responsibility of the employees. Fourth one, demonstrate commitment to the competence. So HR policies and the procedures. You are hiring right employee with right competence, attract them and try to retain them throughout. And you are also having succession planning for the key positions. If X goes, what next? And third one is enforces accountability. So holds individual responsible for internal control responsibilities. Their KPIs are very well defined, documented, and monitored, evaluated. The performance evaluation happens against those KPIs. And also while defining that, management considers the excessive pressure. It should not happen that, you know, unrealistic targets are given to the people. So it should be the realistic enough. So that is the overall control environment component, which has the 5 principles, and within this control environment, entire organization works. I can see there are few questions from few people. I request, you know, I'll take up all the questions. There is a question answer session after the this presentation, and I'll take it up all at one go, friends. Next is the risk assessment. One second. The second one is the risk assessment, which says establish objectives prior to risk identification. As I mentioned in the beginning, objectives will always be there. So for the risk assessment, first there is a need to have complete clarity on what you want to achieve. Is that what are the risks you are going to face? Determine the critical success factor of all objectives. Now this objective also at each level, not only organization objective of the profitability. As I gave the example, it can be anything, better quality. So all objectives need to be clearly identified, and against that, what are the risks? So identify risk, and identify risk at what level? At entity level, like competition risk, new regulations, natural disaster. Process level, raw material inventory, substandard quality, fund utilization, and then the likelihood and the impact assessment of that risk. So proper risk assessment, you have identified the objective and you have identified the risk here. What are the principles? The 6th is the very clear: specify relevant objectives, operational, financial, non-financial, external, internal, compliance, identify, analyze risk. 8th one is very important: consider the fraud risk also within which can, you know, be act as an obstacle in achieving the organization objectives. So fraud risk also need to be factored. Next one is identify and analyze significant change. The 9th one is very, very relevant in today's scenario. You know, now when there are so much of disruption, there are so much of new technologies coming, and there are so many new risks. So you cannot just identify all the risks at the beginning of the year and then sit quietly that, okay, we have identified all the risks. No, it's a continuous monitoring of external environment and the impact on the business model, so that if there are new risks, you are the first one to identify it and take action, a trap, you know, the trap action to mitigate, to basically treat the risk. And last one is the change in the leadership. Even if there is a leadership change in the organization, that also impacts that can also be one of the risks that need to be considered. Moving to the third component, control activities. Friends, this third one, control activities, is actually I would say is the most important. Though all are very, very important, but for we people, we actually go and perform the lot of audits and either we are on this side of the table or on the other side of the table. Even if we join the organization and we have been given the responsibility of the control to monitor the controls or to design the assess the controls, this particular third component is the very important for we people, and this is also I have covered little more in detail. So let's try to see, let's see what is there in the control. So what are control activities? Actions established by policy and procedures to manage risk integrated with the risk assessment. So you have risk, you have objective, you have risk, and now you have the controls. You have designed the controls. So mechanism to achieve the organization objectives. So controls also have the two categories. One is the entity level control, another is the process level control. So entity level is the corporate wide having pervasive effect on the organization, like delegation of authority, whistleblower policy. Process level control directly is involved with the step-by-step transaction or task like three-way match control and all. Key principle 10, 11, and 12, select and develop control activities, as I mentioned, across the levels. Select and develop general controls over technology. So your IT general controls, IT infrastructure, IT security, and IT maintenance control. This one, the 12th one, is very, very important, which is deployed through policy and procedures. So policies establishes what is expected, and procedures put policies into action. So it's not only the policies you need to design for the organization, you should also have the detailed procedures, and there should be complete clarity across all the levels that what that employee is supposed to do. And the next one, to add on to this, the policies and procedures should be periodically reviewed and updated. Now frequency can be defined, it can be as and when, but whenever there are new risks comes, definitely, and there are new controls, you need to relook into your policies and procedures. Yes. So what are the control activity types? By timing of occurrence, preventive and detective. By nature of performance, automated, semi-automated, or manual. By frequency, it can be daily, weekly, monthly, as and when needed, annually, year-end controls. So it varies. So these are the basically the preventive, detective, automated, semi-automated, manual. Any kind. These are the types of control. Let's understand this in much more in detail. Preventive control. So this is proactive in nature, prevents a problem from occurring, within a process. Preventive level controls are generally applied at a single transaction level, and it can be an automated control, and it can be manually done. Examples: purchase order approval, a three-way match of purchase order, invoice, and GRN, where you cannot process, you cannot prepare a GRN for a quantity more than the purchase order, and invoice cannot be paid for quantity more than the PO and the value more than the PO. So this is a three-way match control, classic, automated control example. Restricted access, you are not allowed to pass the JVs. There is an access right control. That's a preventive control. Detective controls. So catch errors that were not originally prevented. The second one, monitor reliability of the preventive controls, whether the preventive control is working perfectly or not. This is generally applied on the group of transactions, and this can also be automated or manual. So variance analysis, reconciliation, bank reconciliation, review of the system change logs, the history of the logs in the let's say vendor master. You are reviewing the vendor master, how many times, what kind of changes were done in last 1 year, and who did those changes. This kind of controls are detective. Automated. In automated, basically where there is no human intervention, and the most important thing is that this is non-judgmental. This chances of errors are almost negligible. So this is programmed to proactively mitigate the risk applied at the root cause level, relies on system generated information. Example again, the three-way match. Now what is the semi-automated and automated? Three-way match is the automated control. Now semi-automated, or we also call it as the IT dependent control, where you are dependent on the information. It's first of all, it's a mix of manual and automated control. That's the semi-auto. automated. You are dependent on the IT information to take some action. So for example, doubtful debt provision, what you will do, you will generate the aging report, the data aging report from system. You are dependent on system, and then based on your policy and procedures, you will pass the manual JV. There are many organizations where it is done automatically as well. Automatically based on the rule configured in the your SAP or ERP, the doubtful debt provisions entries are automatically also passed. But it can be semi-automated if you are manually reviewing that aging report and passing the JV manually. Last one is the typical manual control, which was always there since ages. Tasks manually performed to mitigate the risk, thorough checks and approval. This is the risk is the susceptible to human error and judgment. Example, inventory physical verification, MIS maker checker. For example, this presentation, I mentioned that this particular here, it was made by me and reviewed by my mentor. So the maker checker control was there. Lock and key control. Now, what are the control activities commonly used? System access. This is automated, preventive, and continuous. So restricted access to pass the JV. That's the example. System configuration. Now, access and the configuration are two different. Alarms control at DCS. So if let's say you are filling the tank with some hazardous material and it goes beyond the maximum level, in that case, there is a alarm in the distributed control system, and you get the message, no, you cannot fill beyond this. So that's your system configuration. Or your three-way match control, or let's say the best for the system configuration can be the inventory valuation through the weighted average method. That is being done through system configuration. So that's automated, preventive, and continuous. Authorization. So now the entire your this level-wise approval that is configured generally in the system for the PO approval or for the invoice approval. So that can be actually manual or automated. It's preventive. It can be periodic or as and when needed. Maker checker control, we already discussed. It can be manual, automated, preventive, periodic, or as needed. Segregation of duties. So segregate your asset custody from the accounting. Segregate the approval of the transaction and the custody of the transaction. So this is one of the most important concept in control activities which need to be applied, and there are many audits are performed. Segregation of duties, this can be physical and from the IT also, from the IT rights. So one person cannot have right of PO creation, PO approval, GRN creation, and also the payment process. So through be it the system related control or the manual control, the segregation of duty study need to be performed across the organization. First, it need to be designed correctly. Second thing, this need to be periodically reviewed and updated. So this can be manual, automated, preventive, automated control. It is a preventive control and it's continuous in nature. Policy and procedures. So company has established the policy and procedures. First, you need to guide people what they are supposed to do. There should be a clarity in their roles and responsibilities. So that is also one of the control, which is manual control, preventive, and continuous. For policy and procedure, one more thing, friends, that people should be aware that the policy and procedure exist. So also the company need to impart training and tell them that there is first of all a policy and procedure. This is the intranet and this is the place where it is, and they can access them and go through it. In many organizations for code of conduct and that kind of thing, there is an annual confirmation as well, where the sign off is obtained by all the employees that they have read it and understood it. Physical access. That's physical access to the data center through your magnetic ID or badge. That's a manual, or that can be manual or automated control. It can be a preventive or detective control and continuous in nature. Environmental safeguards, fire alarm is there, so anything happens, so the people, the person in the control room gets the message. So that's a manual, that can be also manual or automated, preventive or detective, and continuous in nature. Control reliability, very important concept. As we consider different types of controls, it is important to note that some controls are more reliable than others. To establish sound internal control compliance, an entity's aim is to have an adequate level of reliability to effect to effectively mitigate risk to a sufficient level. The next graph is very simple but very important to understand. So you can see there are 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at one axis there is the desirable, whether this control is desirable or not, and on the other side whether it is reliable or not. So manual based detective controls, less desirable, less reliable. Manual based preventive control, more desirable, less reliable. System based detective controls, definitely reliable but less desirable. Fourth one, system based preventive control, that is highly desirable and highly reliable. So people from 1 to moving to 2, 3, 2 and 3 are moving to 4, and the objective of the organization is to reach at the 4th level. This is the best one, system based preventive controls. So now what is there? You are you must have heard about, or many of you must have seen also, robotics process automation, automated controls. We are moving towards blockchain. All kind of system based preventive controls are being introduced every day. So this is where the organization is moving to, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and actually from 1 to 3 to 4. The target is to be there at 4. So I hope this is the most reliable and desirable control. So I hope you all are clear on the control reliability concept. Quick exercise, friends. Okay, let's see. Payment to vendor is processed by accounts officer and approved by the CFO in the ERP system. This is preventive and automated. Bank reconciliation performed on a monthly basis in Excel sheet. This is detective semi-automated. Manual entry in the security gate register before entering plant premises. This is manual and preventive. See the next one. System does not allow creation of GRN in excess of PO quantity. This is preventive and automated. Last one, a pop-up warning to manager in case of his subordinates violates their access rights. Detective and semi-automated. These were also few examples. Before I move to next, one latest internal control example I would like to quote here. We all are seeing the biggest internal control of our life to meet some objective, to mitigate the risk. This is also, actually, had this been a classroom session, I would have asked the question to you. Let me see if I can see the answers. So which is this control we are currently seeing? All of us, each one of us who are attending this training and who are part of this panel, that control is, my dear friends, is this lockdown. To meet the objective of corona-free India, to mitigate the risk of catching corona. So this lockdown is the biggest internal control we all have seen in our life. And there are many more controls in this. You have to wear mask when you go out. You have to frequently wash your hands. So what are these two controls? These two are the preventive controls. So the corona is, you are not caught with this coronavirus. Next one is the testing, the continuous testing which is being performed. So what is the testing control? This testing is the detective control. What we are supposed to do? We are supposed to use this Aarogya Setu app. Now, what is Aarogya Setu app? It's both preventive and also detective. This also gives you the information on the number of the cases at the state level, at district level. So it has that kind of monitoring also. So it's both preventive and detective control. Next one is there is also an approval control in this particular lockdown thing. There is approval. What is the approval here? Now today we are sitting on 16, 17. This lockdown is getting over. Can we all in Mumbai and the Pune region, which is the highly affected, can we go out openly from 18th Monday morning? We don't have an answer at this moment, right? It depends on what? It depends on the approval. Whose approval it is dependent on the state government. If we get that kind of approval, then only we can move out. So this particular latest case, this particular phase of our life is nothing but a very good example of objective. There is an objective. To meet that objective, you have controls introduced by the central government, the state government, by your municipality. We are following all of those to ultimately have a corona-free life as soon as possible. Fine. Moving to the fourth component, which is information and communication. You have the control environment, you have done the risk assessment, you have introduced the control activities. Now all of these needs to function together. So this information and communication that support functioning of all other components. There should be effective internal communication, there should be effective external communication, inbound and outbound. Relevant and quality information only. It should not that there is a plethora of information and it's of not information of data and it's of no use. So quality information is available, accessible to all the people to take informed decision. Establish in communication lines and protocols. There should be a whistleblowing mechanism within the organization for outsiders. If there are any concern, people are free to raise their concerns in writing and they should feel comfortable while raising it. For design, implement and conduct of internal controls and to assess its effectiveness. What are the principles? Generates and use relevant and quality information only. Okay. Communicates internally, communicates objectives and internal control responsibilities, communication with the board of directors. There is a separate line of the board of directors and the management, separate communication lines for the employees like whistleblowing and relevant method of the communication. Same is for the external also, the way for the shareholders, for partners, for owners, regulators, customers. Enable outbound and inbound communicate. That enables this enables inbound and outbound communication and separate communication line whistleblowing for your all stakeholders outside organization as well. So information in communication is also very, very important component. On this is actually helps in establishing good coordination among all the components of internal control. Last, the fifth component is the COSO monitoring control. You have understood the fourth one. Fifth one is to evaluate whether internal control component, all four. Number one is present. Number two, it's functioning and operating together. So whether the control continues to be relevant or not needs a change, that also need to be identified. Ongoing or separate evaluation. So how are you going to monitor? You can have the ongoing continuous monitoring of the control functioning of the risk and new controls against the risk, or you can have a separate evaluation like internal audit. That comes, internal audit comes here in the monitoring control. Process of capturing, reporting and timely communication of the findings. Organization assessment of the effectiveness of the internal control and follow up also after once you have performed the internal audit, then follow up on the deficiencies. So that is your principle number 16 and 17. Conduct ongoing and separate both kind of evaluation and evaluate and communicate deficiencies to whom? To the management and the board of directors, and continuously monitor the corrective action. So follow up of your observation whether they were supposed to the implementation plan was given by the head of the department, whether they have actually implemented it on time or not. The status also we need to report it to the audit committee and to the board of the directors. Commonly used monitoring controls, it's a periodic review, weekly operational and the financial performance review, budget versus actual, that is manual or semi-automated detective control. Reconciliation, bank reconciliation, fiscal versus book, that is also detective control. This point is very important. You know, what happens generally, I have seen that my colleagues are often, you know, confused. Okay, whether the monitoring control is not a control activity. So no, friends, these two are different. Control activities is integral part of making business process work against that risk. Control activities are embedded within the process to prevent and detect errors and the irregularities at source. Provide assurance that relevant financial assertions are met. What is monitoring? Monitoring is the evaluation of the performance of the control activities. So monitoring is not a control activity, it's the evaluation of the performance of the control activity to ensure that the control activities are in accordance with the objectives and the performance criteria, and we perform ongoing and separate evaluation. Now, next comes is the internal control assessment. Here comes our internal audit, and for in India it is internal audit and the IFC reviews. Overseas it is ICR review in the Middle East. If you talk about SOX, that is also applicable to India, so SOX also comes here. Internal control assessment. What we do, two kind of assessment. One is the design assessment. So my process A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, these are the 8 steps. Whether 8 steps are being correctly designed or not, or no, this is not the correct design, we need to change it, we should not do this way, we should do it other way. That's the design assessment of the internal control. Then the operating validation of the operating effectiveness. So if the controls are correctly designed, whether it is functioning correctly or not, on the basis you need to perform the sample testing. There are the sampling criteria given, both is there in the SOX, it's there in the IFC, it's there in the ICR. Everywhere you need to follow that sampling guideline and then test the operating effectiveness of the control. So once you perform the assessment, what kind of outcome you are going to identify, either it's working perfectly or there are internal control deficiencies. So that deficiency refers to a shortcoming in a component or component and relevant principles that reduces the likelihood of an entity to achieve the objective. Again, the objective keep coming. So the deficiency can be, it can be a normal deficiency, significant deficiency, or a material weakness. Now your question can be whether COSO defines clearly that this is a deficiency, this is a significant deficiency, and this is a material weakness. The answer is no here. COSO says that this kind of categorization need to be done: deficiency, significant deficiency, and material weakness. Now what is a deficiency for India, for let's say other countries, that depends on the external reporting and the internal reporting. For external reporting, criteria set by the regulators, the standard setting bodies, and other relevant bodies is acceptable as per the COSO, but there should be criteria. COSO says that there should be a criteria. Internal reporting criteria set by the board, by the senior management, that is acceptable. COSO says that there should be internal reporting criteria, there should be external reporting. Now, control decision model. So you started the control. First, what you will do the design testing, whether the design is effective. If the answer is yes, you move to test the operating effectiveness. If the answer is no, then stop. When discuss with the process owner, head of the department, and determine the disposition. Very, very important. Next one. Basic testing concepts. Effectively designed control should be tested. If you think that the control is designed very effectively, then you should test it more better whether it is functioning or not. If the control is ineffectively designed, then it should not be tested. First thing you report it. We should be aware of the control deficiencies arising from the prior reviews. So every year testing is performed. What was there in 1819? What was there in 1920? In 2021, when you perform, you need to go and check that whether that gap still exists or the organization has mitigated that. If only controls are tested, we should note it in our report, and if only key controls. So there are key controls as well. So if only key controls are being tested, that should be clearly identified in our report. In-depth testing may require the use of subject matter experts. So if you are, let's say, in oil and gas, highly technical, pharma, in case of you are not able to perform that, understand that control, there are technical matters, then deploy the right kind of expert. What are the various testing techniques? You can go and inquiry, that is ascertain whether a control is in place by asking a specific oral or the written question. Observation, by seeing that, directly viewing the control, how it is being performed. By inspection and examination, inspection of records, documents, reconciliations, and reports for evidence that a control has been properly applied or not, and the reperformance. You can also tell them, okay, can you please do it once again for me? Can I see it, that how are you doing it? The repetition of a control performed by an employee or a computer system. So in the next 2 columns are given is the documentation requirement and the few examples. I request you to quickly have a look on last 2 columns as well. Here we move from risk and control documentation. Move from assessment to the documentation. Friends, you have done the assessment, entity level and at the process level. Now what you will do? You will document it. Now, how to document entity level control? First thing, this format, the template step 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is only suggestive in nature, my friends. Nowhere it is mentioned in the COSO that only this format you are supposed to follow. You can have a better one as well. I had, when I was doing IFC, lot of IFC reviews I have done. When I used to do that, I was having a questionnaire of more than 100 questions which I used to go and ask. So you can design the documentation the way you want to, but these kind of this can be one of the approach. So this approach is only suggestive, not the as a rule base. So step 1, what is the principle you documented? Step 2, there are point of focus, there are more than 80 point of focus against the 17 principles. So you have understood all the point of focus for that component. First principle, point of focus. What is the entity level control you have seen? Is there a code of conduct? Whether the code of conduct employees have read it? Is there an annual confirmation of the code of conduct? You in step 3, you will mention all those steps. Step 4, you will write what kind of documentation. If it is not documented for V auditor, it's not existing. So you need to see the documentation, that what kind of control is actually there, and can you evidence it by way of documentation. And the fifth one is you will finally making a conclusion that are the entity level controls deployed across the entity to demonstrate the principle is present. What is this first principle is present or not? So answer yes or no. If the answer is no, you mention the gap. What is the gap which you have communicated to the management? That is at the entity level. You perform for entity level, you go to the head of department, to the managing director, CEO, CFO, you interview them, ask them all the questions, take the documents and perform the assessment, and then document it. This kind of documentation is required. That is very must. That is very important. Now process level. The process level, the first thing what you do, process walkthrough, process mining. And here you ask question how? 5W1H. What is 5W? What is the control? Why is this control? Who performs this control? Where is this control performed? When? And how is this control performed? Against what risk? You ask all of this 5W1H question, and plus you obtain the documentary evidence. At the process level, it can be procure to pay, order to cash, it can be maintenance, it can be production, it can be any core or support function here. But you need to perform this walkthrough. And once you perform this walkthrough, you capture all this information. So major process, sub process, what is the activity you are performing the walkthrough on? What is the risk description and the risk heat? Risk heat is high, medium, low. What is the control description? Who is the control owner? What's the control evidence you have? Financial statement assertions, whether achieved or not. Then the control types, various control types, whether preventive, detective, automated, manual, application control, all of those you capture in that risk and control matrix. And then whether it is a key or the non-key control. What is the key control? One of the most important control to mitigate that risk. If against one risk there are 3 to 4 controls to mitigate more risk, which is the most important one. Now you can ask how to decide this one. This is, friends, the professional judgment. In case of the payables processes, 3-way match is always a key control. And if there is any kind of gap, what is the gap? Whether it is communicated to the management, you have obtained the implementation plan and the timelines, that is also captured in your risk and control matrix. And we finally we call this document for the process level control as RCL. Now internal control review, a legal perspective. So we have now come out of COSO. I have explained the concept, the 17 principles, the 5 components, also the assessment and the documentation part of it. Now let's see what is the Indian legal perspective on internal control. There is no direct Indian legal perspective on COSO per se, but there is a legal perspective on the internal control at different places. Some statements are made, so I will just highlight that. So SA 315, it says that the process designed, implemented and maintained by those charged with the governance, management and other personnel to provide reasonable assurance about the achievement of the entity's objective. The same thing we have seen with regard to the reliability of the financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, safeguarding of the assets and compliance with the laws and regulations. Control refers to any aspects of one or more components of internal control. Then comes the section 134 of the Companies Act. That also says the policy and procedures adopted by the company for ensuring the orderly and efficient conduct of its business, including adherence to the company's policies, safeguarding assets, prevention and detection of the frauds, and the accuracy and completeness of the accounting records, and timely preparation of reliable financial information. Section 134 IFC, which we all perform the audit. That mentions about the legal control. Let's see the bird's eye view of this. Section 134, who is responsible? Please see this slide very carefully, my friends. Who is responsible? Directors' responsibility statement. So directors are responsible for internal control. Let's see what next. Rule 8.5 of the company's rule book. Who is responsible again? Here, board of directors to report to include the details in respect of the adequacy of IFC in the financial statement. So board of directors are independent directors. Board of directors are fully responsible, who are at the top most. They are responsible for the internal controls. Who next? Next is the LODR, SEBI. SEBI makes responsible to whom? CEO and CFO. They have to give the certification that to indicate that establishing and maintaining internal controls for financial reporting, evaluation of effectiveness of internal control, disclosure to the auditor and the audit committee, the IC deficiencies. So who is responsible and who are supposed to provide the compliance certificate? The CEO and CFO. So earlier in the last two, directors were responsible. Below that, CEO and CFO are responsible. Let's see who next. 143, statutory auditor to report whether the company has adequate internal financial control system in place and operating effectiveness of such control. So statutory auditor is also responsible. So you can see all the topmost in any organization, they are responsible for internal control. Last one, the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India. So there is a guidance note on ICFR that doesn't mention anything directly about the COSO, but definitely it mentions everything which is there in the COSO. So the importance of internal control is definitely clearly identified by way of this guidance note, though there is no clear reference of COSO here. Next comes the standard of internal audit 120, SIA 120, which has been recently rolled out by the institute. There is a clear-cut COSO reference is also there. You may ask the question, okay, fine, internal control, but why COSO? We can have our own framework, some different frameworks. So my friends, there are other frameworks as well in this world which exists. You have COCO, you know, the Canadian. There are some other South African. Also, there are controls. In Europe also there is a model. But COSO is the widely accepted worldwide. That's the reason more importance to more emphasis on the COSO. So you can see from this in this particular one slide that from your topmost to the CEO, CFO to statutory auditor, and the CEO, CFO to certify that what they are dependent on whom? They are dependent on the various functions, the head of the department. They have to first ensure that their department, the internal controls are designed correctly and working effectively. On the basis of their statement, only CEO and CFO will sign it off. On the basis of the CEO and CFO sign off, your directors will sign off and give the assurance to the various stakeholders. So you can understand the importance of internal control from the Indian legal perspective, my dear friends. Internal controls, benefits and the limitation, very important. If you have strong internal controls, what are the benefits? Improved efficiency and resource utilization, authorized transactions and transparency, prevent and detect errors and frauds, assets are safeguarded, effective and timely communication, and you are also legally compliant, strong governance and compliance culture, and complete and accurate financial reporting. And finally, more value to your business partners, investors, governments, and regulators. So more value to all the stakeholders. Do you think that this is that easy to achieve internal controls? No, friends. There are internal controls limitations as well. What are these limitations? Suitability of the objectives as a precondition to IC. If your objectives are not realistic, there are unrealistic targets, then internal control cannot do anything. Human judgment can be faulty and biased. Also says about the framework, but the internal control you are supposed to apply, that's a human professional judgment that can be biased and there can be error in that. Breakdown due to human error. If there are human errors, you cannot do anything. In spite of good controls, you have made someone responsible for the working of that control, but that person had did some error. You cannot do anything. Cost of control more than the benefit. This is very important for we people, and this is very important when we interact with our clients, the CFO and the head of the departments. We keep saying that document this, document that, but at the same, they will say that I am adding so much, but I'm not getting that much of value. So we need to be very clear that how much, when it is cost of controls, is not only the money, it's time as well. How much time and efforts we are going to use to implement that control, and whether it is going to address that risk or not. So there should be a right balance. The environment should not be over or under control. That is where our skill comes into the picture. We should not burden the organization with the more and more controls, and at the same time it should not be an under control environment where the risk has not been mitigated. So this fourth and fifth bullet, very important for us. We need to have right balance there. Then management override of controls. What will you do? What internal control will do when the company, the director and the MD and CEO says nothing doing, do whatever I am saying. Employee has to follow their direction. And these are the, management override of controls is the clear cut, because it is public domain. That's why I'm taking name. It's ILNFS case. If you go and read the NFRA audit report, audit quality report, that clearly mentions about the management override of controls. Now, collusion and fraud. In spite of having all kind of controls, if there is a collusion and fraud between the vendor and the employee, between the customer and the employees, or among the employees and with the bankers, something, the classic Nirav Modi case, then what will you do in that case? All names which we are taking, that's in public domain. Nothing which is there in the public domain, I am highlighting only those cases. If external events is beyond the control, what will you do? If there is the COVID-19, in COVID-19, what can you do? Which internal control will help you to achieve the objective in this COVID-19 scenario? Nothing can be done. So friend, though at one side there are many benefits on the left hand side, which I have shown, definitely that is there, but at the same time there are these limitations as well. We need to be very careful while performing our job. If we are part of the organization, then we need to see how the controls, which controls are right, whether it is correctly designed and working effectively or not. And if we are auditor, IFC auditor, all the internal auditor, then also we need to be mindful of all these benefits and all these limitations. While giving any kind of assurance to the board of directors, we need to be very clear whether these kind of limitations we have seen, we have addressed or not. Process owner role in the internal controls. This is very important. The last one and one of the most important. What happens that you go and you do the IFC, you do the internal audit, especially the IFC one. Then the process owner, they are not aware of this COSO, and they are not much aware about the concept of the internal control. You explain them all of those things. Then they ask, in spite of everything, okay, fine. Now what I do? What next? What is for me now? I have understood everything. मुझे क्या करना है इसके बाद? Then these are the few things you can communicate that, my dear friend, have a clear understanding of the controls you are required to perform and those that reside within area of responsibility. Ensure that controls are documented, represent the actual activities. All the controls are documented in the entity level or the process level. Identify and communicate the changes required to ensure that your controls are operating effectively. So if there are any changes, there will be one person responsible for the documentation for the entire organization control. So you need to inform that guy. Engage in a process that allows you to review your controls on a regular basis to identify change to control design. So now the processes are changing because of this automation and all. The processes are changing all regularly. So if such kind of changes are there, the same old control is not there today. So you need to be updated on that, and you need to keep informed the person who is the centrally responsible for the repository of the documents. Retain the evidence of the control operation. So if you have done the job, please please keep the evidence as well. Ensure documentation exists to prove timely performance. So it's not only you're performing the control, you have to timely perform the control, which includes evidence of the review procedure, sign off and date. Keep that documentation. Understand and abide by the company's XYZ policies and procedures. That is also one of the internal control. You have to abide by the company policy and procedures that are in place and the impact on the controls. Testing is performed against those policies. And ensure complete and timely remediation of ineffective controls. So if there were ineffective controls and you were responsible for the remediation, please ensure that you have remediated it and informed to the basically the person centrally maintaining the repository. One example, friends, without taking the name, one of the India's largest supermarket success story. What is the statement here? It's not only right strategy, it's the right implementation of the strategy through effective controls. You can have solid strategy, but do you think that that strategy will help you in achieving the company's objective? No, it's the implementation of the strategy, and their internal controls comes into picture. So internal control can be a game changer. There may be two companies. If you compare the companies within the same industry, long time back, Kingfisher and Indigo, within the same time period, one was performing, one was not performing. So this is one of the key factor differentiator. So this particular largest supermarket chain in the country that has come up so well, and the earlier established player, they have left them behind. So the share got listed of this company when they went public, that got listed with more than 100% premium, valued at around 40,000 crore, much more than the competitors. Strategies like pay suppliers and vendor within days, and that was helping them in giving discount to the people. They passed on the cost benefits to their customers, which ensured consistent footfall in that supermarket. The fifth bullet is very important, that devise pinpoint plan for effective execution of the strategies. This was possible only through effective internal control. So they had not shut a single store since it started. So that shows the importance of the internal control, and it can be a game changer. So friends, the one statement my view or my point of view I would like to share, that it's not for success of any organization. I would say it's not that only internal control is must. You definitely need to have the right strategy, but internal control is the mandatory ingredient. Without this ingredient, you cannot it is not possible for you to achieve this kind of success. So if you are successful, internal control strategy is must. Having said that, friend, I'm done with my presentation, and the forum is open for question and answers. I can see a few of the questions here. Someone is asking that COSO can be applied only for large organization. No, it's a framework. You can apply. It's basically framework says that against the risk you need to have the control, correct control activities, perform the risk assessment. So be it a small organization or a large organization, the framework you can apply anywhere. What you need for a small organization, the risk will not be within the same industry. Also for a small organization, the risk will not be always same. You need to first identify what you want to achieve, what are the risks, and then what are the controls. So it can be applied to big and small all. While practically auditing, what is the difference between IFC audit and the internal audit? Like what different verification should be carried in both types? Can you give with examples? So IFC audit and internal audit. So IFC audit is your assessment of the internal controls, the design part of it. That's a very good question. And the operating effectiveness. What is the difference here when it's come to the design side of it? When it's come to the design side of it, I would say it would same. But when it comes to the operating effectiveness for IFC, this is the sampling is very limited, very limited. What you do in the internal audit, for the procure to pay function, first there will be a IFC, then there will be an internal audit. IFC will be done by whom? Try to understand the difference. Here you need to understand, you are actually telling me to address the concept of the 3 line of defense here. Okay, the 3 line of defense, the first one, I'll address exact your point by this concept. The 3 line of defense, the first one is the people, the department who is responsible, procure to pay department. So the procure to pay department, head of the department, they are responsible for the internal controls, the risk and the what are the controls. That is the first level of defense. Second level of defense is the risk management. The people who have identified the risk and communicated to the first level, and they have introduced the control. And the third level is the assurance, which is your statutory auditor and the internal auditor. They come and they assess whether the internal controls are designed perfectly and whether it is functioning or not. Now, where is the difference? When you do the IFC, it comes in the first two. Okay, the management gets it done. IFC exercise, IFC audit. Okay, you come, you please do the IFC audit and tell, because subsequently who is going to come? The second and the third line of defense, statutory auditor and internal auditor. You know, they are going to come and they are going to assess it, and they will report it. So IFC is continuously, internal control is the responsibility of the management. So IFC audit is performed by the get it done by the management. They perform, they invite the auditors, we complete the exercise, and subsequently we submit our report. Internal audit, they comes at the third line of defense and clearly check whether your controls are designed perfectly and operating effectively or not. One more difference is that the depth of the testing here in case of the internal audit would be much larger than the IFC. IFC, there is a clear-cut guideline that this much of sampling you need to do. You test this sample. If there is an exception, no exception, it's fine. But in internal audit, you do the audit in much more in detail. Today, you perform the data analytics. You take 100% on sampling and then you report. How can one begin implementing COSO framework for a franchisee business model company having only a year-old internal audit department? Please share some insight as to what needs to be taken care of, like checkpoints. So be it a new organization or the old organization, COSO can be applied anywhere, my friends. So you need to understand the framework. Framework says that if you are in the year one, it says that there should be objectives very clearly defined. So if you are in the year one, what are your objectives for the first year? Do you have a 5-year plan? Okay, I'll move to that objective in the year 2 and year 3. So first year, I don't want to be profitable. I may want to sell only at the break even, but for that, this is my objective. These are the risks and these are the controls. That can be now the business model can be you can have the franchisee business model or any other business model, any kind of company. The framework says that there should be a risk and objective against objectives. There should be a risk identified and there should be controls. Question number 2 is, can you share some checkpoints in HR audits? That's very transactional. HR audits, yes, there are complete checklist, available, with the different, you can approach any of the audit firms for the HR audit, for any core or support function audit. There are detailed checklists available. I won't be able to share the HR audit checkpoints in this particular forum, but yeah, definitely these are very much readily available. Key controls to be audited by a franchisee model retail company. So see, guys, what I would say that in this forum, I'll not answer the transactional level question. For example, you are asking me the key controls to be tested for a franchisee model company. Yes, there are ready checklists available for the franchisee model. And what I can share with you in this 1.5 hours is the concept. You need to approach the, the CAs and the audit firms for that, and you will get the complete detail. Best source to learn the coding for analytics, as explained yesterday, which can be adopted by the CFO. Now, best source to learn, I will refrain from commenting that you should approach this particular, the institute. They will tell you to learn the coding. That I would not like to answer. Can we get PPT? You can ask the organization. This is by CA. My query is, what could be the control to mitigate non-identification of the new risk? Yes, or leaving new risk after initial risk assessment. This depends on what you need to do. This is the right question I'd like to answer here. So there is a possibility you may miss out, and it is very difficult to identify all the risks. Now tell me, friends, how it was possible for any one of us to identify the COVID risk? Who had envisaged this? No one, right? So what is required here? Correct risk management framework. Once again, the timeline. Yes, it's 11:30. Last one more question I'll take. So is there a risk management framework? And what you can do, you can get the risk management framework audit, whether there are right set of skill sets of the people are there or not, who is doing the risk assessment, who is reviewing it, what is the periodicity, what is the frequency, what are the source of information, what are kind of the data you are accessing, and then as an audit you can comment on the risk management framework of the organization. Organization has put in place auto reversal of provision. This is transactional, I am not going to answer. Can you please explain what is the alarm control at DCS? So DCS is the distributed control system in the manufacturing organization, where let's say if something goes wrong, if as I mentioned, there is a tank, where the hazardous material is kept, and alarm is the basically operational control. So you can fill only this much, let's say kgs, and you have filled that particular hazardous material beyond that upper limit, then there is an alarm that is the alarm control, by which the person is sitting in the control room, they are being intimated that please go and check, you cannot fill beyond this, you have to reduce the quantity. So this is a operating control in the manufacturing company. Yes, social distancing, there were a few examples given. How is this is important one, how is the IFC and COSO related? So basically in IFC there is a guidance note given by the institute, where we have the everything there what I have mentioned in the COSO, that is clearly entity level control, process level control, the similar things are given, but there is no direct reference of the COSO. COSO word is not used in the guidance. COSO word is used in the standard of internal audit. So but whatever I have explained, that you can definitely apply to your IFC audits. With this, the time is over, friends. What I am doing here, I can see there are more questions. So friends, this is my, I hope after this explanation your understanding of internal control is under control. I am CA Manindra Prakash. This is my email ID and this is my mobile number and the LinkedIn profile. I request all of you to reach out to me for not for the transactional level query. I won't be able, I won't be answering. Any kind of COSO related, framework related query, please reach out to me on this particular on my contact details. With this, thank you very much, all of you. Thanks for the patient listening, and thanks to the organization organizers as well to giving me this opportunity to present on COSO. Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure, sir. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, sir. It's a wonderful session, sir, and marathon session. Bafna ji, would like to request Bafna ji for a kind vote of thanks.
It gives me a great pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks to CACS Manindra Prakash, who is an eminent speaker, who's having experience of more than 15 years, along with the 4 big companies organization, and who delivered essentially lectures on this recent techniques of the internal control system to control the cost effectively and efficiently, to monitoring and manage the function of operations with the managerial judgment to achieve the business goal based on the preventive control system, as is explained in the long way. So this is a good lesson to us. Thanks to Manindra Prakash for giving a wonderful lecture on this topic. On internal audit. Internal audit is very important for this management, as this is the eyes and ears of the management. Is hearing from this control system and taking action to take the management control system by the board from the management, internal audit and management auditor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you all the participants for interactive participation. We are meeting tomorrow at 11. Sorry, 10 to 11:30. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.